6:30,
Right.
allegedly to go to school, which I rarely did. And and so and I did that for 7 days a week. I don't know how we got away with it, but it was they were hiring young kids, and then got away with things of that nature.
Right. And what time did you start work?
What, honey?
What time of day or the morning did you start work?
Well, after school, I started the work day for the Fizzle for people my age started at 7 o'clock at night,
Oh my.
and you worked from 7. There were 2 shifts. You worked either from 7 until 1 o'clock in the morning, or from 7 until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days, it was just at the start of the war, and so we were working 7 days a week. So you didn't get a lot of rest time,
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature.
Right.
And you didn't get a lot of school time either.
Right. Right. So you played hooky a lot?
School was to find a place to sleep.
Right. So what did you do instead of going to school?
What, honey?
What did you do instead of going to school?
What would I have done?
No, what so Grandma thought you were going to school, right? But you weren't.
Grandma thought what?
My grandma
Yes.
thought you were going to school
Yes.
when you left the house in the morning,
Yes.
but you weren't.
No, not always. I went occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had my spies, so they would tell me when there was going to be an exam.
Right.
And so you showed up for the exam, because that was one way of checking on you very clearly,
Right.
and so forth. And so, and high school in Jeanette was a piece of cake was too much to say. But and so, and I've forgotten his name now. He was the school psychologist,
Oh.
but he was also the English teacher. But he was completely aware that most of the boys at my age and so forth were actually all working in the Fizzle, or some of them who had contacts were working in McKeeglass.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to have a relative or somebody
Yeah.
working there already.
Hmm.
And so, I don't know the point I was going to make.
You were talking
But
about
it
the
was a
school.
very valid point.
I'm sure it was. You were talking about the school psychologist who was also the.
Yeah, Mr. And I want to say McIntosh, but it's a name like that.
Mhm.
It's a kind of a Scott name. But he was fully aware that there were kids that needed to work,
Mhm.
and they had to come to school so that the school authorities wouldn't be after them all the time. And so what he did was, in the class, he taught English, so it was a big classroom. In the back row of the classroom, there were, I think, 9 or 10 seats.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would let all of us who worked, for the most part, we all worked at the Fizzle. So all of us would get to sit in those last seats in the row and go fast asleep immediately. And he made sure that it was very quiet around it, and so that we got by that way.
Right. Huh. It's a different world, huh?
I didn't learn any English.
Right. Well, I think you picked it up somewhere along the way.
Yeah, bullshit. So when Graham thought you were going to school and you didn't go to school, where did you go? What did you do?
When I see what you're driving at. What we tried to do, the group of half a dozen of us at the time, what we tried to do was to find a place to sleep.
So where was that?
Pardon?
Where did you go?
Where would we go?
Yeah.
Oh, sometimes, for example, we would go to the Kroger store, and we had contacts with all the Kroger people, so we would go in the storeroom and sleep in the storeroom.
Huh.
And we would also go and sleep I don't know, probably you don't have a contact with Vince Izzy.
Mm-mm.
He was a somewhat of a football player, but he couldn't catch a damn ball when you threw it to him. And so, his brother was, what do you call the boss authority?
A manager, supervisor.
It was some kind of supervisor. And so what he did, he would get all the young boys and find a place for them to sleep down at the Fizzle.
Oh,
And he was the night foreman.
right.
And so all of us would go and we'd find a place to sleep. And Vince Izzy's brother would take care of us. First, we broke a couple of dozen jars. We played football with glass jars.
Oh.
I don't know whether you remember, pickle jars were made in the shape of a football.
Oh, no, I don't.
You know, they had that cut. You know, it wasn't intended to look like a football,
Right.
but it ended up looking like a football. And so we would spend the first couple of hours on the job at night, tossing this glass jar around, playing football with it. After we had broken maybe 2 dozen of them, we decided, I guess it's time to go to sleep.
Oh my goodness.
What about? I remember you saying something about a rail car.
About what?
In a rail car.
I'm
Sleeping
sorry,
speak up.
I don't hear well.
The rail car
Did you guys sleep
down by
in?
the train station.
Oh, yeah. We would do that. What we frequently did was, you know, we would get ahead in packing the glassware or whatever it's called. I've forgotten. And then we would get that in one of the cars, and that glassware would be warm, and so we would have a nice, comfortable place to sleep. What you had to be careful about was that same, I forgot what you call the train that picked up the trade people.
Locomotive.
Pardon?
The locomotive.
Well, yeah, that's the front end. It's the back end over
Caboose.
the caboose. Yeah. In any event, what the hell was I going to say?
You had to be
Well,
careful.
Yes, we would get in that railroad where it was nice and warm, and we would fall asleep. And the idea was when we got to McKee Glassware, somebody would awaken us, and we would get off the train
Oh.
and get back to town. Now, every once in a while, there'd be a smart ass around, so they would not call us, you know, and we would end up being down in Pittsburgh someplace,
Oh.
Oh wow.
not knowing how the hell to get home.
How did you get
How
home?
did you get home? Yeah.
Take the trolley car.
What's that?
Did you take the trolley car home? How would you get home from Pittsburgh?
A variety of ways, mostly thumbing.
Oh, right.
In
Right.
those days, your thumb was pretty safe kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah.
You know, now I'd be reticent to
Mm.
recommend anybody
Sure.
going out and thumbing.
Right.
But in those days, everybody did it.
Mhm.
Everybody thumbed.
Mhm.
And so that was, you know, if you were in Jeanette and wanted to go to Penn, you know, you didn't start out
Stick the thumb up.
walking.
Right. Mhm.
You started out thumbing.
Right.
Those were crazy, crazy times.
Yeah.
Crazy times.
But good times too.
What, honey?
But good times as well.
In a sense, yes, but you know, we weren't starving. We weren't getting starving wages, but we were very close.
Right.
For example, those of us that were still of high school age made 25 cents an hour. You know, people, adults, you know, made anywhere from 35 to 50 cents an hour. Boy, that's a lot of work. you
Right.
know.
Right.
8-10 hours a day to make $2 or $3.
Right. Yeah.
It was just, and it wasn't necessary. McKee Glass was making lots of money in those days. But You know, they didn't have to pay people.
Right.
People would come to work no matter what the hell
Mm-hmm.
you said.
Yeah. Just happy to have a job.
Yeah.
Needed to provide for the family.
And so, but I often think was it a good growing up experience, or was it? Could I have utilized, you know, the use of the school system better? You know, you know, I didn't study algebra until late in my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I skimmed right through all of it, but you know, nonetheless, there were a group of us that were simply not participants
Right.
in the high school education
Mm-hmm.
because I either had to sleep during the classroom or I had to get ready to go to work.
Right. Right. Yes. No time for school.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the thing is that there was a great deal of pressure from my family to be going to school and not going to work.
Mm.
They resented is not the right word, but they did not like the idea that I went to the fizzle at night instead of going to school during the day.
Right. I'm sure it was a little mixed emotion, right? They wanted you to go to school, but they needed you to earn money and help support the family.
And I think probably most of us, we recognized that we weren't doing the right thing, not going to school, playing hooky all the time,
Right.
doing all those things, breaking as many glass jars as we could before the boss showed up, you know, that kind of stuff. But all of us, you know, allegedly worked, and you were on the high side of things if you got 25 cents an hour, and you were working next to the boss at 35 cents an hour. And that's what most senior males made,
Right.
35 cents an hour.
Well, I think you recovered nicely from your lack of a high school education. You did okay.
I got a lot of stories to tell, but I don't have much algebra to show you. And the funny thing was that we had I don't know what you called it. It was an honor roll kind of thing, and so each didn't call it semester in those days. I forgot what we called it, but in any semester type situation, they would have the honor roll.
Right.
And DV was always on the honor roll. And my friends would say, "How the hell did he get on the honor roll?" You know? But my parents carried that honor roll around like a badge.
I bet. Did Jenny make the honor roll?
Pardon?
Did Jenny make the honor roll?
Did Jenny? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jenny was a smart kid.
Yeah.
Smart kid. Pain in the ass, but smart kid.
I think she passed that on to some of her kids.
What's that, honey?
I think she passed that on to some of her kids. Pain in
Some
the ass part.
kids.
Yeah.
I would say some of her kin. Include
Oh,
me.
well, that too. Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, it used to be crazy. You know, you'd get off from school. In those days, we got off from school either at 4 or 4:30,
Really?
as opposed to 3 o'clock as they get off now. And we had longer school days and so forth. And you know, the educational techniques were not as refined, so that you had to go to school the extra 2 hours to learn to write your name.
Right.
You know, D-O. Why is it not Dominic? Your birth certificate says Dominic. because I was in the fourth grade and I could not spell Dominic.
So what did you spell instead?
Pardon?
What did you spell instead?
What did?
You couldn't spell Dominic?
No.
No. So you just shortened it to Dom?
I just, No, that's not exactly the way it happened. The way it happened was I was in the fourth grade when this decision was made. Some of the teachers would spell Dominic Dominic, and that's the way it appeared on the birth certificate.
Oh.
Other teachers would say, no, that's not the Catholic way. It's Dominick,
Right. Huh.
Saint Dominic.
Ah.
And so we had that business all the time, and you know, the kids were always, there weren't only two of us named Dominic, so it wasn't a big deal. But you know, that didn't go down well at all, and so and then when we got to the fourth grade, or when I got to the fourth grade, most of the students had their names spelled in a particular way, and that went all through school. Mine, until I got to the fourth grade, it was never the same for any teacher.
Right.
You know, one teacher would spell it Dominick, another IC, another. And so at the start of the fourth grade, there was this controversy about how to spell my name. And my dad took me aside and said, let's talk about this. And so we sat down one evening and we wrote out the various ways you could write and spell and pronounce Dominic. And so it finally came down to D-O-M.
Oh.
That covered all the bases. And so from the fourth grade on, if you look at my school records, from the fourth grade on, my name is Dom.
Oh my goodness.
And also, all through high school, my name is Dom. All through college, my name is Dom. All through the service, my name is Dom.
Right.
So my name became Dom, and so and it's still Dom.
Right. Period. End of story. Right.
Yeah.
Huh. I never heard that story.
Yes.
I never heard that story.
Every
So-
once in a while, my mother would, you know, I think sometimes in teasing, and sometimes because she was ticked off, she would, you know, your name is Dominic. Where the hell are you getting Dom? You know.
I was going to ask if she was, because she clearly, well, whether she chose your name or had a part in choosing your name and how it was spelled, right? Because that's what was on your birth certificate. So I was wondering if she was annoyed at the shortening of the name from Dominic with a C to just Dom.
Yes.
Sounds like she was.
For the first couple of years, I had some friends that went to school down in Manor or Penn or someplace, and they always had a controversy on how to spell my name. I didn't.
Right.
You know, I knew how to
You
spell
knew exactly
Dom,
how to spell.
D-O-M. But so there was that issue for a while. You know, how we're going to end up spelling Dom. And my mother was very tolerant. I was surprised that she did not insist on Dominic because that was on the birth certificate.
Right. Right.
And for the first couple of years of school, the teachers still called me Dominic. And but as I say, when I got to the fourth grade, my dad called me in about the second or third week of school, and I had 3 or 4 teachers by that time. You had an English teacher, a math teacher, and so forth. And each one of them had decided how to spell and pronounce my name.
Right.
And so, you know, it was ludicrous at times
Right.
how they pronounced Dominic, you know.
How would you pronounce it other than Dominic? Seems pretty
I
obvious.
don't know. You twist your tongue, and as it unfurls, Dominic.
Huh.
But and so my dad and I had that conversation, at the 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because some teachers were spelling it Dominick,
Mm-hmm.
like on the birth certificate.
Mhm.
Other teachers were spelling it Dominic. E-C,
Right.
yeah, because that was in some of the Bible stories.
Right. Right.
And so there were 3 or 4 variations
Huh.
of Dominic.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad and I sat down, we decided, well, what are we going to call you, kid?
Right.
Just don't call me late for dinner. Yeah.
Neat.
And so we settled on Dom.
Right.
That was kind of covered all the bases.
Yes. Every variation of Dominic has Dom in common. So that was the easy choice. The obvious choice.
That's
Right.
crazy when
It is crazy.
you
Uh-huh.
have to make such a big deal out of your name.
Right.
And it's only 3 letters, Dom, D-O-M. It's not like Christopher or one of those big long Latin names that
Right.
kids used to
Right.
cart around with.
Hi.